Unboxing the Garmin Fenix 7S Pro Saphire Solar Edition. This is what the package looks like, and we now take a look inside. Now this is the latest watch from Garmin as of 2023 and December of 2023. There are different sizes of this, but there is also kind of an Extra Pro version. Now this is the smallest version, this is the S version. So the S in this case does not stand for basically the next iteration, but it just stands for small. But the Pro stands for the next iteration. So you might remember the iPhones, for example. There was an iPhone and there was then an iPhone S. But here it is kind of different, where the Pro actually means that it is the next version. So there was a Fenix 7S without the Pro, and this was the latest, not the latest, but the version before. And this is the successor to this watch. Now, specifically this watch also comes in this box, and this is what the watch looks like. And the watch itself has this sapphire glass in front of the watch, but it also has the solar ring, which is supposed to prolong the battery life. Now we take a look at what is also in the package. We have this charging cable. There are additional adapters you can get, and then you can actually use USB-C. So this is a USB-C to the Garmin connector cable, and there are also additional adapters you can get, such that you can also use a normal USB-C to USB-C cable or also older cables. So what I actually have is this adapter, and I then just take this adapter and adapt it to all the cables that I have. Now, regarding the watch itself, there is not much in the box apart from an additional instructions thing. So this is the Garmin Fenix 7 Pro Series flyer, I guess. And what we can see is that it has now a lamp. And we might take a look at this lamp already, depending on how far this unboxing will go. And then we have these important safety and product information instructions, which probably are very important. Now we take a look at the watch itself. This is now again the 7S Pro. This here is the 7, not the 7, but the 6S Pro actually, and this is therefore the 2 generations. So there is 1 generation in between, and this is the watch that is basically 2 generations skipping from the 6S. It doesn't skip 2 generations, but it's like 2 generations in the future. Now we take a look at the watch itself. It comes with the normal Garmin strap, which you might already know if you have a Garmin watch. So now we unstrap this. Now there is also the normal quick release, which means you can also change the bands, which I actually did. So I do have a Galaxy Watch 4 on my right hand, on my right wrist, usually. And then on my left wrist, I wanted the same look. And for this specific reason, I got just the same band again. And this is also on what the 6S Pro currently sits. Now we take a look at the front and the back. Now we have these straps. These straps are fairly flexible, as you are already seeing. Now I might take a little bit of I might go a little bit to the side, such that the focus doesn't change all the time. Then in the back we have a few of the sensors, and on the side we have the normal buttons. So we have 3 buttons on the left side and we have 2 buttons on the right side. Now on the older version, on the 7S, or not specifically on the 7S, but on the normal version, the standard sized version, this button, so this ring here was orange, but here it is not orange. So we do see that compared to the 6S Pro, it is kind of the same color as you're kind of seeing. It's not completely black, it's this carbon gray, Garmin says. Now this watch is currently also on sale. It costs $699 because it's kind of pre-Christmas now. We might take a look at a few specs. So this is the Pro Sapphire version. So Sapphire Solar means that it has the solar ring, and if we now take off this here, which is just a sticker, then we actually already see the solar ring. So now compare this to the older watch. On the older watch, we don't have the solar ring. Now the 7S already had the solar ring, I think. And what you are seeing, if you are taking a closer look, is that here, on the outer layer, we have just this black ring. And this black ring just holds basically a few words and a few things, which are mostly for navigation, I think. It's probably the degrees in which, if you have then what is the thing called that's navigating, I don't know, then you're seeing this. Now, this basically hides that all of these are kind of the same the same size and also have the same display size, but some of them then have the solar ring. So there was also already a solar version of the 6S Pro, but on this version now, what we are seeing is this solar ring. This is on the outside, which is the slightly reddish thing. Now this is basically a solar panel that is embedded into the watch. Now we can also take a very close look at the watch, and it is also looks still kind of new and also very shiny. Now on the back it says Pro Saphire Solar, and also it says up to 100 meters, and it's also titanium, and it's also Power Saphire. What is Power Saphire? And it's also multi-band GPS. Now we take a look at a few specs. So it says on the Fenix 7X, so not this version, it says on the website it is up to 37 days of battery life. Now I got the old version, the 6S Pro, which is not the version before, but the version before. I usually get around 2 days of battery life, which is not that great. Usually it's kind of 1.5 days, and then I charge the watch again. Now the newer watch has a little bit of a newer software. Now the old watch and also the 7 probably still have kind of the same software. Especially the 7S might have very similar software. What is kind of new is the flashlight, the built-in flashlight. So we already might try to turn the watch on. So I go to the side again, and then usually you click on this button on the right, and the watch, if it has a little bit of a charge, might then turn on. But if I forget what the correct combination was to turn the watch on, then it doesn't. So I tried a few different combinations. It turns out that it was this button here, and I just long pressed it, and this is now what it looks like. It already looks like a little bit of a better display, but the old display of mine is also a little bit roughed up, you could say, already, and has a few scratches. Now this is the Saphire Solar, so this is supposed to hold a little bit longer than the old one in terms of the scratches. Now, what are some special features only this series has? Now, listed on the Garmin website are lots of features, but what is specifically listed is of course the flashlight, which we will take a look at shortly. Then we also have the Garmin ECG app, which should now be activated, but I think it depends on the country where you live in, whether you can activate it or not. Now, there also might be in the future blood pressure measurements, but I'm not entirely sure about this. Also body composition, I've heard about this, but I'm not entirely sure if on this watch and on this Garmin watch specifically. Now, also long battery life with the solar charging. What we also have in the new watch is now an endurance score and also a hill score and also training readiness, which was also, I think, already available in the 7 lineup and not the 7 Pro lineup. Then we have a few different things like the hill score we already mentioned, visual race predictor, Pace Pro technology, which is also already present, I think, in my older version. Now, the question I asked specifically for this watch when I bought it, because I bought it only a year ago and it was refurbished, whether the software would actually update. And compared to somebody or a company like Samsung, which updates their watches, I would say, fairly decent, it seems that Garmin, because Garmin is mostly a hardware company and sells these products and doesn't sell subscriptions up to this point, is kind of baking a few features only into the newer watches and doesn't bring necessarily training readiness, for example, to older watches like the 6S Pro, even though that would just be nice. We also have great adjusted pace, training readiness, training status, performance metrics, real-time stamina, daily suggested workouts, which I already enjoyed on this here, but I found that I just didn't really use them. Recovery time, race widget, wrist-based running power, and the Garmin coach. Now, there are just lots of more features like outdoor maps and track your activities and surf and pulse ox sensor, which I also already have on the older watch. One of the main reasons, or one of the main differences between, for example, the 6S Pro and the newer watches would be, and this specifically would be, that you can also measure HRV during the day with a feature that is called HRV status. So you take basically a little bit of time, I think it's like 1 or 2 minutes, and then it measures your HRV during the day. In the older models, you can only measure nighttime HRV, usually. And also the newer watches, also I think the 7 series already, have a health report that comes up in the morning, so it's called the morning report. It shows you your sleep score and so on. Main issue with the older watch I had, apart from kind of the not so good battery life, but compared to the Galaxy watch it's kind of the same, since I got the Galaxy watch's battery replaced after about 2 years, and now it is kind of the same with this watch. But this watch is probably from, I think, 2019, so it might not be that bad in terms of the battery life. Now, Garmin also doesn't exchange the battery life, not the battery life, but the batteries on these watches. They only offer you to completely send the watch in, and then you buy basically a new watch, which is kind of a nice reframing of you just buy a new watch and you give us the old watch and then we replace the battery and also maybe check for additional issues, and then we sell this watch for kind of a higher price again. We also have stress tracking. We have the health snapshot feature. Oh, it's not the same as HRV status. HRV status is just a normal baseline HRV during the night and so on and so forth. Nap detection, automatically track or log your naps. So, as I mentioned, one of the biggest things that missed on this watch specifically was the sleep. Now, during an average night, usually about 1/3 or 1/4 of my sleep just wasn't captured. But it was captured on the Galaxy Watch, for example, on the Galaxy Watch 4. So therefore, I wondered whether it is just a sensor. I also looked up on a few this up on a few websites, and it seemed that maybe it's just the algorithm, but also this is another sensor compared to this. It's also kind of a very visible difference that the sensor is just different on these older watches. Now, the 7 series already has this newer sensor, and I think they didn't change the sensor, but I'm not entirely sure about this. Now, we also have women's health tracking. We still don't have something like mobile networks, so it has GPS, and there might also be an emergency feature. At least somebody told me about this emergency feature that should be available with GPS, but compared to the Galaxy Watch, that is also kind of a small smartphone where you can actually call people and your contacts, it doesn't just have this feature, and you cannot call people apart from when you have it connected to your phone. But I think one of the main ideas of having a watch on your wrist is that it also kind of acts as a phone. Now, there is also Garmin Pay, contactless payments. There's also music on there. So Spotify, for example, has an app for specifically the Garmin watch, and also a few other music companies. And that's mostly it about this watch. So again, what is in the box this year? We also have this year, we get just this cable, which is now USB-C. The older one actually got delivered, the 6S Pro got delivered with a USB-A cable. Then we have this year, we have the box itself, which didn't have opening seal. And well, that's pretty much it. For normal use, I would recommend an adapter like this, because otherwise you have to carry the cable everywhere, but of course you can also just carry the cable everywhere. The big advantage is just that you can also then charge normally with another cable, your phone, and maybe other things. And this was an unboxing of the 7S Pro from Garmin.